morning, everybody, and welcome to Well Edit Wednesday. We are very excited about having Monica Farber here today, who's the owner of Hello Fancy Media. We had the delight of meeting Monica at the Southern Sea and got to enjoy a meal together and just got to know her and hear her really interesting story. When I talked to Monica yesterday for our pre-call, she said, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but she has so much to share, and I'm so excited that she's going to be here today. And so, Monica, maybe just start off telling us a little bit about how you got to where you are today as a photographer.
Sure.
And all other things that you do. I mean, you have a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start from the beginning. I actually went to school for photography. And I did not graduate and was like, boom, I'm a professional photographer. But I went to grad school at University of West Georgia for photography. And then I wasn't sure like what to do next. And so my immediate thought is like, keep learning. So I went to grad school at SCAD, the Atlanta campus, and I received a master's in commercial photography. At that point, I really needed to be in Atlanta. Wasn't what it was then, what it is today as far as like the movie industry and everything. So I really needed to be in New York to do really what I wanted to do. And I was focused a lot on fashion at the time. And you don't just walk out of school and be like, boom, I'm a fashion photographer. I'm going to go work for, Elle Magazine or whatever it may be. So I actually finished grad school in 2010 and finished undergrad in 2008. And as you know, that was like the worst time ever to try to find a job. So I'm searching, I can't find anything. I was an intern with TBS my last semester in grad school. So that was a really cool experience, but they weren't passing out jobs at the end of the internship. So I continued to work in the restaurant industry while I looked for a job. Luckily, I got a project with Philips. So Philips, air fryers, toothbrushes, except their medical division. And I did one project for them. They said, do you know how to edit video? I did not. So kind of fake it till you make it and figured that out. Obviously, I know a lot about photography, so I figured out how the two met. And after that one project, they created a position for me. So I worked for Philips for maybe like 6 years in communication. So I was like internal communications for a team of about 3,000 people and just helping like put together newsletters and presentations. Something that used to be, a slideshow is now a video, and doing, instead of just like pictures that someone would have snapped on their phone to share in a newsletter, I'd go shoot it for them. So it wasn't really the topic I wanted to focus on, but it was still somewhat in my area of focus. And then after about 6 years, I was like, okay, so I can either move up in Philips, which is a great company with awesome benefits and really good pay, but then I'm going to be in health technology forever. And I'm supposed to be in fashion. And at the time, Instagram was just blowing up. And so I said, I need to be in social media marketing. Everyone with a business needs social media. So I needed to get a job in that. And so I started interviewing everywhere and I couldn't get a job. Even with my like really great resume, I couldn't get a job in social media marketing because they're like, oh, we need someone to run who has previous experience. Everyone runs into that. Finally got a job with a restaurant group. They had me do a test shoot for them. They're like, let's see what her photos look like. They loved it. I worked there managing social media for 12 different brands in Atlanta, large restaurant concepts and one hotel. And then after a year, when they kept adding on brands, but they wouldn't expand the team, I was like, I am one individual. I think I can do this on my own. And so with a lot of encouragement from my husband, I just quit. And I started Hello Fancy Media, where I'm like, here, I can offer social media marketing for you. And oh, by the way, I'm a professional photographer. So you have a photographer, videographer, and now a seasoned social media manager. That started in October of 2019, and then 2020 happened. And so targeting restaurants or anything in fashion, they don't have a budget anymore. Restaurants shut down. And so just networking my butt off and doing everything I could do to make it happen. doctors started reaching out to me and were like, hey, we're still open. So I started shooting photos and video for doctors that year. And then 2021 rolls around and I'm like trying to get more social media clients, and small businesses are coming to me. And I'm like, this is great. I can work with small businesses. So many are female owned. This is going to be a great niche for me. Small businesses obviously don't have large budgets. And so I am spreading myself so thin, and some of these businesses are coming to me like, run my social, they don't know much about it. And I'm like, well, first of all, you have no branding, you have no website, or you have a website, but like your teenage daughter made it and we need it to be a little bit more professional. And you have like, you're using 18 different fonts and you don't have a logo. And so then I teamed up with someone who is a graphic designer here in Atlanta. Her name is Jordan, and Jordan came on with me. And so then I'm offering social media, photography, videography, branding, web design to whoever needs it. Last fall, I met Sally Holder, who is my business coach now at the Southern Sea, where I met you guys, but the Southern Sea workshop in Athens. And I said, Sally, I think I need your help. I am at the verge here. I am working like insane hours and I'm not making anywhere near what I need to make. And I'm on the verge of having to hire people, but obviously I can't afford to hire people. So do I become an agency and go all in with all of these things, Hello Fancy Media, or what do I do? And do I start doing these teachable classes? So I invested a lot of money into learning how to create this whole teachable course to teach small business owners who don't have the budget to hire me how to do it themselves. But then I can have this like, revenue coming in while I'm sleeping. Well, that was the plan anyways. So I started working with Sally and she was like, hell no, don't do that. What in an ideal world, how did she word it? Like magic fairy dust. What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just shooting photos, like food, travel, fashion, creative things. And she's like, okay, that's what you're going to do from now on. So throw away all the teachable crap. You're not doing social media anymore. Well, Jordan, we're not doing web design, graphic design, any of that. And as of January 1 this year, that's it. Like, I'm like, should I just change it to my name, Monica Farber? Like, because I'm a photographer. That's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing from now on. And so that's all I've been doing this year.
Well, tell us, this is really interesting because I think we do hit these points in our career where it's like, we think we're going to go this way. And actually what maybe our next path might be different than what we had imagined. And it's nice to have, sometimes it's really hard, I feel like, to have perspective on yourself, that outside voice can be super impactful. Tell us what it's like to work with a business coach. Like, I know you met Sally at the Southern Sea, and then, but tell us, like, when do you think someone needs a business coach? Why did you decide to engage? Do y'all still talk now? Like, what is this, a forever thing or like a 6-month thing?
Good question. So it could be both. When I met Sally, I had no idea. Like, I had never worked with a business coach before, and she was doing a mastermind program. So that was, 12 weeks, I think it was. And so you pay one flat rate for the 12-week program, and you have one call. It was myself and like 5 other people. She works with all female entrepreneurs. So different industries, but we got on a call once a week, and we kind of just went around and she coached us on, like, she is like, no BS. Like, this is stop doing that. You need to do this. And it's funny because I had to pay someone to tell me to do what I started doing like 15 years ago. And instead of me just like believing in myself in that first decision, I'm like, no, this is smart. Let's add this and this. Let's do this. This is strategic. And I had to pay someone to be like, why'd you do all that? Just do what you started doing. But she's been extremely helpful in like pricing, for example. We talked about pricing for a minute yesterday and figuring out how to do that, because there is no guidebook on what to charge as a photographer. I'm sure as anyone, unless you have a product that could be a little bit easier, I would imagine. I have no idea. But no one knows. Like, and if you ask another photographer, oh, what should I charge for headshots, or what should I charge for, one product shot for a magazine, or a 1 hour shoot for a restaurant? It's like, people don't want to answer that question. They'll just be like, well, no, it depends. It depends on your skill level and and it does, but it's almost impossible to figure out where to start. And I remember in the beginning, it's like, I just pull a number out of thin air. I'm like, that sounds good. And in the end, I was like, holy crap, I literally just did that job for less than minimum wage, and
I liked how we talked about this yesterday, but like how you did figure out this year how you were going to price. I'd love for you to share that, because, I know sure, a lot of people are thinking that, and maybe just start with that, because anyway, it is applicable across the board for almost all creative jobs.
For sure. So right now, I'll go ahead and tell you up front, I don't do any project for less than $3,000. So if someone comes to me and they're like, I just need a headshot, I'm probably not the person to do that. If you want to pay $3,000 for a headshot, you can. Now, maybe we can discuss a way that you and your entire team can get headshots, but it's not worth it I can only do a certain number of projects per month to do it well, to do it the way I want to do it, to work the hours I want to work. And I figured out, I can really only do this many per month, and meaning I can only afford $3,000 at minimum. And how I came to that number, really, Sally helped me come to that number, because it's kind of like working backwards. You figure out what it is that you need to be successful, like in your mind, like I need to make X amount per year. Okay. Realistically, how many photo shoots can I do per year, per month, per week? Is it a photo shoot where I'm shooting a bottle of water for you? Or is it a photo shoot where I'm going to be at your restaurant for 8 hours? Now I have to break it down even further. And now what do I have to charge for that in order to make that revenue? And then that's it. And you can't be afraid to think that it's too much. I wouldn't pay $3,000 for a headshot, but all you can do is offer it. And if it's too much, that's not on you, that's on them. So they're not your client.
We have a private client who's an influencer, and she has like an online program, and her business coach said, don't be afraid to just put a crazy number out there for like a really personalized service model. And so at first she was super self-conscious to do it. And then she did it. And she said that was like the first thing that went off of, like when she relaunched, and David on our team says, people throw bad money at stuff all the time. And like, if your work is good, then you should be proud that you're charging what you're charging. And I think sometimes as women, we do that. I sometimes talk people out of being clients in our private practice. And I'm really trying to stop doing that, because if someone wants to pay for advice and guidance, like that's their choice. I'm not here to tell them what to do with that. And I think we all do that in our different businesses, right? Like we
100%.
We want to be such an incredible value. And sometimes that means we put ourselves at a discount.
I'm still struggling with that. Emily, I told you yesterday, like I still am not at the price point and at like where I want to be. I'm still over delivering. I'm still shooting too many projects per month. I'm still doing projects at 3,000 that I know in my heart should be like 8, because I really want that project, because I really like that person, or I just want that. I just want to do it. And it just seems like such a large number for what I'm delivering that I'm like celebrating the fact that I'm doing it for only 3,000, whereas a year ago I would have done it for 1,500, So I'm working up to it. But I often over deliver, and I should be more aware of that, because then it's making it seem less valuable, I think. And Sally also talks about that sometimes. But whatever it is that you're offering, you said sometimes people throw a bag of money at stuff. If you give them such a high price, not like take advantage of people, but give them a high price that you truly believe is worth your time and effort and skills, they'll see the value too. It's kind of like, I had to order a soft duffel bag suitcase for my husband for a trip on Amazon yesterday. And I'm looking through, and I saw one that had like 6,000 reviews and looked perfectly fine. It was $24. And then I saw another one that had the same reviews. I couldn't tell the difference, and it was like $70. I bought the $70 one. I don't even know, because it was
Yeah.
$70. And I was like, a
Yeah.
$24 bag is not going to get him on his vacation, to Africa. Like,
Yeah.
he needs something solid. So I paid $70 and they like look the same to me.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
Well, and it does happen a lot. I mean, I think Lauren and I really had to go through that exercise with Somerset with our wealth management group. And we spent a lot of time figuring out, okay, where do we provide the most value? Like what type of client benefits the most from us? And then we priced accordingly, because we said, if this is the type of service that we want to be providing, kind of to your point, where we're going to be over delivering, we know that's just how we are, and it's not going to change. Neither one of us are going to do a halfway job and so we like to be very personable. We like to spend a lot of time with our clients. We like to do a lot of things that other advisors probably wouldn't do. I mean, just, some simple things to make their lives easier in a service model. And so we said, okay, well, this is going to be our pricing model, and we're going to stick with it. And it's been interesting. Lauren's been doing this for 15 years. I've been doing it now for 3. So it has been harder for me, because I'm new to the industry. Maybe I should be discounting my work, but as time goes by, I'm more and more thankful that we had that good advice from the beginning to just say, this is what it is. And even the clientele, now, it's catching on, like, this is what they do. But it's a process that you have to go through. And I think as we talk to women and business owners, this seems to be like one of their number one sticking points, is trying to figure that out. And the lack of clarity within the industry, especially the creative industry, where prices are not always out front,
No, never. And I really like what you said about, that you're not going to not over deliver. Yeah, same. Like, my goal is like, I got to stop doing that. I'm not going to stop doing that. I am going to go above and beyond. I am going to stay a little longer for the shoot. I am going to give them the extra photos because I just thought they were beautiful. I am going to do all these things. So maybe I should work that into my pricing. No, I do that 100% of the time. I mean, I went to a shoot a couple of weeks ago, and I knew they didn't have like fresh flowers in the restaurant, but I thought, how pretty would it be if there was table shots with all these fresh flowers, and they were all like on brand with their colors. So I went and I bought all these flowers. I didn't charge. I paid out of pocket for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's silly.
Yeah. Well, and we're living and learning, and just having these conversations with one another, I mean, is so helpful. And I think that at the Wealth Edit, we really want women to talk about this kind of stuff. And, as we figure out what our best offerings are, we want to, one of the things that remains constant is we want to create space where women can have these conversations, and whether it be about pricing or salaries, or, how are we doing in an industry, how can we compare? Because really what our hope is, but having these conversations, we're elevating everyone. I mean, we don't have to have a scarcity mindset. We were talking about introducing you to another photographer that is sort of doing the same thing that we had on Wealth Edit Wednesday a few weeks ago. And, I love to connect people, because I don't think you see them as a resource, not as a competitor. You have
to have that mindset. Like, how do they say it? If you put it out there, that's what's going to come, or what you put out there is what comes back to you. Right. So yeah, I'm happy to talk with another photographer. What's her name?
Caroline Bramlett.
Yeah. Caroline. I mean, if she were to ask me, hey, what would you charge for this? I'm not going to be like, meh. No, I don't care. Right. I'm going to tell her, like, whatever. I mean, maybe, next week I'm going to have a question about, how do you think I should shoot that? She's not going to swoop in and steal my client. Hopefully she'll help me out too. Yeah. So, you just have to not be afraid to ask people, because really, what's the worst thing that could happen? They could ghost you. They could say no. I mean, you're in the exact same position. Who cares?
Right. Right.
Well, and that's what, we really do see that, like, if you have that kind of abundance mindset, that there's plenty of business for everyone, and the right people, especially, in financial services, like, people come with a lot of unconscious biases, and like, sometimes they just don't feel comfortable working with a female advisor. Like, that's sad in some ways, but then also it's like, at the end of the day, we want people to feel safe and comfortable. So if that means they need to be with like a man with gray hair, then hey, like, they will have a stable full of them to choose from. So I think that it's like, we've always found like if we're just true to who we are and like what our value proposition is, then the right people will come. And another mentor of mine put like, you have only a certain amount of seats, especially as a small business owner and a busy person. Like there's only a certain amount of seats in your airplane, right? So like if somebody gets off, that just leaves room for someone else who's like a better fit, who's going to enjoy the ride a little bit more to come on board. And so I think that all of that is kind of like what you're speaking to today. And I think that's a really neat thing.
Yeah. And okay, now shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about how somebody who is a small business owner that's getting started finally has a little extra money to start putting towards marketing, et cetera. How do you start working with those clients? Kind of what is your process like for those that are out there that are like, I need that, but I just don't even know what it looks like to work with a photographer, or when do I need to?
I mean, I really can't answer when it's time to, because that really has to do with your budget.
Yeah.
You should fund as soon as you possibly can.
Yeah. Let's say that they have it. Okay. So did I give you a call and say, like, what information do they need before, or do you help them through that process?
Sure. So a lot of people find me on Instagram. A lot of people find me through other people I've already worked with, posting my stuff on Instagram and being like, hey, who shot that? How'd you get that? So what they can do, I am online 24/7. They can DM me, they can send me an email, there is a contact form on my website if they don't feel like going through all of that, but I prefer that they do. This is a really helpful way. I actually added this just in December. Basically, it's a contact form that asks, what is your business? What is your Instagram handle? What is your vision for this project? And what is your budget? And then it's like 3,000 to 5,000, 5,000 to 7,000. So basically, it weeds out anybody who they're like, this is way out of my price range. And then not only are they not wasting my time, but I'm not wasting their time and getting their hopes up. And then they're like, oh, this isn't the right person for me. And if I'm not the right person for them, I've passed on other photographers, like if someone's like, hey, I need you to come shoot, I don't know what it may be, something that I'm not really that skilled in, or that's really not my wheelhouse. I'll find someone else who is, like someone who shoots who needs like amazing drone photography for their real estate business. I know someone who does that. So I would push that on to them. But yeah, it's if they have questions, then they can reach out to me on Instagram. I'd be happy to send them a link to my calendar, and we can just jump on the phone for 15 minutes and I'd answer any questions they have.
Okay. Well, as we wrap up the call, the way we always wrap up, it's just to ask all our guests, why did you say yes to the Wealth Edit?
Oh my gosh, basically for the reasons that we've just spent the past 30 minutes talking about. Like, networking is everything. Like, what would I have shot in 2020 had I not, the reason I did that is because I actually did some work for a gym owner, local gym owner. The owner of that gym also is a partner in a medical marketing agency. And so in 2020, she hooked me up with them. You never know, maybe someone on this call could use my services, know someone who knows someone who could use my services. I'm really not going to say no to anything like this. And at the same time, it's what I said before, it's what you put out there is what you get back. So maybe if someone who's listening is like, you know what, I do not charge enough, I need to quadruple my prices because I am working myself to the bone and I'm getting nowhere. And maybe by listening to this, they're like, you know what, screw it. And they go do it. Then there you go.
Yeah, I love that. And I tell a lot of people, even if the networking side of things does not have to be necessarily a very formal, can I meet with you and show you my photographs? It's just like telling people what you do, whether it's at the gym or getting a cup of coffee and you're standing next to somebody, it doesn't have to be, this very formal, burdensome process. It can just be like, I'm going to commit to every time I have the opportunity to talk about it, I'm going to say yes. And
and then make sure you always ask everybody else what it is that they do, because you never know who you run into the next day who would be a perfect fit for them.
That's right. That's right. Well, Monica, thank you so much for being on Well Done It Wednesday this week.
Yes.
We
My pleasure.
love having you and look forward to keeping in touch and watching Hello Fancy Media as it continues to evolve into something awesome.
Thank you so much. I'll be listening to y'all as well.
All right.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.